Hi everyone, Robert Villanueva here.
You can't tear it down.
And of course, as always, I'll see you at the top. All right. So, Rebecca, can you hear me okay?
Sure can. Now I can.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. We're going to have agents being agents, of course, are going to trickle in. So, but of course, we're going to go ahead and continue to move forward. We'll get this meeting started. Thank you for being on time, everybody. So we're going to go ahead and go through. We're going to get to know Rebecca a little bit better as everybody is kind of trickling in. And we're going to ask a bunch of questions, get to know Rebecca, what she brings to the table, and what makes her so special. So,
Thanks, Robert.
being an amazing person.
Thank-
All right. So Rebecca, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing is what areas do you primarily service now?
Dallas Fort Worth area, almost the whole metroplex in Texas.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then you came from a previous, basically from another area. Where were you servicing and what brought you to Dallas?
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Yeah, so I sold real estate there I got out of college, started at an internship, was like, what do these people make? This is what I'm gonna do. I was like, I can totally do what they're doing. So I sold real estate there for about 5 years.
Okay.
And then I decided that I wanted a bigger market, just wanted somewhere that I could potentially meet my future husband, build a family, bigger market, all of that stuff. And I was like, I'm going to Texas. Just randomly came here. So,
Good. And you accomplished all of the above. So,
yep,
yeah.
found my husband 2 weeks later since I moved here.
There we go. How long have you been in the business?
12 years. I was just counting. I was like, gosh, yeah, 12 years.
Yeah, I think I met you pretty close to that 12 years
I
ago.
still feel like I'm just like a baby, you know? I'm like, gosh, I'm like getting older now.
Well, you and me both, but I think you definitely look a little bit more desirable than I do, so I appreciate that. You've been in Mike Ferry coaching. How long have you been in Mike Ferry coaching?
Almost since I started. I've been exposed to the coaching since I got in. I got my own coach probably about a year
Okay,
after, so 11 years.
okay. And what
Mhm.
brought you to coaching?
The office that I worked at, I was mentored under, Casey Haranzi.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Casey, Nigel Haranzi, and they were always in coaching. So they're like, you want to be successful? Learn these scripts, pick up the phone. And so that's how it started. In fact, Nigel had been hovering over me and was like, call these FSBOs, call these FSBOs. I was like, can I like get some privacy here?
Yeah,
Just hovered over me. I called, I set an appointment, I got the listing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be rich. This is awesome. And
yeah,
then, of course, it's harder than you think.
yeah. No, definitely. So that's awesome. I really appreciate that. Now, tell me a little bit about production. Let's just
Yeah.
jump there here, just for a smidge. Last year's units and income, what did that look like for you last year?
Last year was one of my toughest years. I closed 50
Okay.
and um, I have an interesting setup. I have a business partner, but long story short, I made about 350, which is my worst year
Okay.
since since the first year I moved here to Texas.
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of transitions going on. There's been a lot of
Mhm.
things going on that have taken place. Let's talk a little bit about your best year. What was your best year, units and income wise?
Well, so 2020, I had Tony as a coach, and my husband had just quit his job to pursue professional golf. So I had a lot of pressure on me. Then COVID happened.
Uh-huh.
But would you believe? So that year I doubled my business and I did I think I earned about 525,000, but the most income that I've made was 600,000, 81 transactions.
Love that. Love that. Your goal this year is what again?
So my goal is 65, and that'll bring me about 600,000.
Nice. Good. So tell me a little bit about where you get business from now. What's your business sources? What's your top source of business? Yeah.
So database, definitely, which I had zero in my database when I first moved here. So I've worked really hard to build that up.
Uh,
Um, Database vendors, like I get a lot of business from the folks that I work with and
uh,
send referrals to. So part of that is database. Expireds, canceled are coming back, which is so exciting. I'm doing a lot of those again. Mike Ferry referrals, agent referrals,
yeah,
and then from there, just kind of random.
yeah, for sure.
Some
Absolutely.
FSBOs, some probate.
Mhm. But the majority of your business is coming from your personal database.
So database, expired, canceled, and referrals.
Okay. And then from your personal database, getting into a new market, how did you grow that?
Ira, my coach at the time,
Uh-huh.
was a hammer and he had me adding like 30 people a month. I
Okay.
mean, I was like at the yoga studio, at the gym, getting my teeth cleaned, my CPA, like everybody I came in contact with. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
hey,
Uh,
I'm Rebecca. I work over, I'm a real estate agent. And I would get their information and then I would add them to my database and just
yeah.
build networking events. I mean, anywhere and everywhere, I was meeting people and adding them to my database.
Yeah, so you definitely were not a secret agent. You were out
Yeah,
there with the absolute intention, with a vengeance, and let's build this database because I don't know anybody here. So,
literally not a soul. That and expired and canceled
yeah, for sure.
was a lot when I first moved here.
hmm So starting, of course, getting to meet people, the vendors, all the people that you do business with, so on and so forth, and then growing organically through expireds and then FSBOs and building the database, but being intentional and being purposeful, not
Mhm.
just like letting your database just kind of like trickle in, as most agents unfortunately find themselves doing. So
But
you
you can get lazy with it. I mean,
definitely.
I was real, if you're not intentional, you can get lazy with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing is growing the list. Another thing is attacking the list. What are some things that you did to attack the list so that you can build business from there?
What do you mean attacking the list?
Well, in terms of like, how did you approach it? Calling, texting, were you putting everybody on social media? What were the things that you were doing to generate business from that?
I'll tell you my exact process. I meet you at the gym. I'd get your number somehow,
Uh-huh.
right? Text, call, whatever. I'd get your number. And then I would like call the next day, depending on what our conversation is. I'd call the next day. I said, I don't know if I've actually ever told you what I do for a living. And I'm so sorry about that. So I'm a realtor. And what do you do for a living? And just kind of have that organic conversation. I want to be a resource for you. So I've got this great program to where I can send you a market update from time to time so you can get a pulse on what your house is worth. Would you mind if I set you up on that? Great. What's I just need your address and email address, and I can send that to you periodically.
Hmm.
Get their address, get their email, boom, they're in my database. And then I start calling them quarterly.
There we go. Sweet.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I do it a little old school as far as the quarterly. So I have my database in a CRM called Chime,
Uh,
but I actually print it and I literally go through it and I
okay.
just like check it off as I go. This I finish in a quarter, I print it again and finish it next quarter, right? Like just
hmm
that's pretty simple, stupid as far as, but each month I go through my entire database,
Uh, No, I, I
calling them like
love
that.
I love that, and I chuckle simply because of the fact that I can see the faces of some of the people that are in the audience because we talk about this all the time to keep it very, very simple. And it's exactly with what I do, creating. And I'm not trying to take the spotlight off of you, but one of the things I've been talking to the audience about is just being in a position where you can actually simplify, put it on an Excel spreadsheet, put all the people's names and numbers, separate the husband and the wives, and just
Uh-huh.
attack it. Just go after it. Call them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and it makes it easy because if I'm like right now, I'm in my Grapevine office. I also have our South Lake office. If I'm at home, I have a kid now, like I work from home sometimes. I have this folder with me. It has my goals,
Uh,
it has my scripts. Like this is my traveling office, and I have my database in there. So then
yeah.
that's part of my thing. It's all right there.
Yeah, and again, I chuckle because I'm on my fourth three-ring binder in 25 years, and everybody always asks me, Robert, what do you use for a CRM? I'm like, I have a CRM, but my team doesn't even allow me the password because every time I go in there, I'm butchering it, I'm editing, I'm doing stuff, and they're like, get out of there. So my three ring binder, and I appreciate you sharing that because yeah, that three ring binders, I don't know, I don't want to sit here and talk about me, but that's been the heart and soul of my business.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate you
It's,
sharing.
yeah, you just, and I've got my prequel in there printed. So if I set an appointment, I pull it out, I
Mhm.
fill in the answers. Like it's very simple, stupid. I do have a CRM, so I'm not like as archaic as Robert. And I do actually use it for follow up and things like that. And if we send out like a mass email, my assistant uses that. We do have that market activity report that we send monthly.
Yep.
So there's different things that we send via email,
Mhm.
but definitely our prime is calling.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. There's all the extras that we can do, the texting, the emails,
Mhm.
putting them on social media, all this other stuff. But I wanted you to organically say it because my audience kind of chuckles because these are things that we talk about all the time. And
They're
as
like, Robert paid her to say this.
well, the thing is that a success has commonalities. And that those commonalities, as I interview great agents like yourself, and other people that I've interviewed in the past, everybody's saying the same thing. It's not like as if though, oh my gosh, it's like, you know what, this is what is the missing ingredient to with what, what's going on. It's simple. We just complicate things.
Hmm. We definitely do.
I like what you said though in regards to the adoption. This is something that I talked to also I got from Neil Weichel about 20 years ago. Neil Housewasey, Tony Smith, those were my mentors. And from Neil, he would talk about adopting people. And the
Mm.
example he would get is my son, daughter would play soccer. And then I just exactly what you did, I'd give him a call. Hey, Rebecca, it's Robert. Our kids play together on the soccer team. I don't know if you know, but I'm a local realtor, and I'm curious, do you currently have a realtor that's servicing all of your real estate needs? Oh, you do? You have a friend. Okay, well, that's great. Are they giving you updates every quarter with what's going on in the market? Oh, they're not. I'd love the opportunity to do that. It's okay if I check in with you. It's like parallel to everything you
Mm.
just said. So I love
Yep.
that. And I tell people all the time, I'm a copy and paste. And I
Hmm.
mean that to the truest form because all I do is take great ideas, like yourself. I mean, we role played for what, probably about 2 years together. And,
Hmm.
that was
Yep.
a fun little venture. Um,
That was like right when I was moving.
yeah, exactly. You were.
Yep.
So you're welcome. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, you were a great role play.
Uh,
Definitely get you outside your comfort zone.
For sure, and I really appreciate that. But the success has those commonalities, and I think that's the one thing that I
100%.
want the audience to understand. You can sit there and look at all of these different shiny objects, all of the things that you're sitting there, the diet pill, the quick results pill, but it really boils down to the simplicity and of course hard work. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
I just did a training on the 5-step listing process.
Mhm.
And I said when I was a new agent, like what would I have wished that was presented to me, Because it's like you hear all these different systems and you have these great agents and you hear these ideas, but I'm like, I want to know like exactly how you do it.
Yeah.
Like you set a listing appointment, what's next?
Mhm.
What does your package specifically look like? Do you have
Right.
a listing bag? Like what's in your listing bag?
Mhm.
Like if you guys have some great agents in your office,
Mhm.
I mean, get down to the details because it's the details that set you apart. You know, how many pens do you have when you get to the appointment, right? Like,
Right.
are you right up next to the door? Do you kind of sit back? But just everything. Tony told me that. He's like, it's showtime.
Yeah.
And there is so much, you need to practice
Mhm.
exactly like what it all looks like.
Right.
And if you practice it, it just becomes second nature. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
you can turn a list.
Absolutely. It's all in the details, It's
Hmm.
like a relationship, you can sit there and talk about all the big things, but it's all about the little things. And I love that. Tell me a little bit about your team. What does your team look like right now?
So I mean, pretty small. I have a full-time business partner. So she works like I do. We both list, we both help some buyers, not very many. Um, and then we have a full-time assistant.
Okay.
And then I have agents that I know and trust. I call them my open house specialists, my showing agents, right? To where I just pay them like contract labor.
Yeah, on a need basis.
Exactly. We like to keep it simple.
Yeah, for sure. And the reason I ask that question is because a lot of times I've got agents that'll sit here and tell me about building a team, and I have this agent and I have that agent, and then I'm like, okay, well, last year you did 18 deals, and your goal is to get to 100 deals by adding 15 agents on your team. It's not how it
Mm,
works. So
no,
yeah.
that's not how I ever would want it to work. Like I love sales. I don't want to manage people.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, as far as like all of those type of setups in terms of building a team and going in that direction, which can be an option. Why did you choose just to go a lot more organic?
You know, I like the sales part of it. I like going on listing presentations. I like helping people, and I think when you start to get a bigger team, the focus gets away from that aspect of it, and you essentially just become more of like a manager, a team lead. And I have just heard, especially from different big team leaders, they're like, I just want to get back into sales. Like
Yeah.
it's a different role, and I like my role. And I think that, you can be very profitable. You
Mhm.
can focus on what you love and building a successful business without having a huge team.
Right.
And I have a great team to where I went to Switzerland for 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Didn't worry about one single thing. Didn't look at an email, didn't pick up a phone call until I was on my flight back home. I was like, all right, I guess I'll start catching up now.
Yeah.
When I got married, they were there. When I had a baby, I was able to take, so for me, our dynamic works great.
Yeah. And the best part about that is you get the opportunity to, of course, truly enjoy vacation. So,
Mm,
it's interesting.
glorious.
Yeah, it's interesting because part of the reason why I went away from the production side of things for me personally and going into more on the coaching and the broker side of things is just simply because of the fact that I was just so involved. I was doing it the wrong way. Being in Puerto Rico with my family and being in a position where I was in the room while everybody else was enjoying the pina coladas
Oh,
and everything else.
yeah.
Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing
And
that.
there's different ways, to where you could run a team and still build it to where you're able to go on vacation and enjoy it. It's a matter of just setting the intention and building it how you want.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think for me as a coach, when people ask me this question, it all boils down to profitability.
Hmm.
It's profitability, number one, and number two is the leverage because you can build an organic team, with what Rebecca just mentioned, to where you can have people that are available to attend to our stuff versus
Hmm.
putting a bunch of people and hoarding licenses and then claiming their deals as your deals. And then you get on stage and say, I did 120 deals, but I have 17 agents that work underneath me.
Yeah.
Deals did you do? Well, I did 13, that's not the way we should be building the business. All right, cool, awesome. Let's now that we actually have a good size audience, I'd like to go ahead and of course reintroduce Rebekah Gilbert and also to be in a position where we can provide value back and return to Rebecca. So Rebecca did come from Myrtle Beach. She transplanted her business over to DFW, Dallas Fort Worth in Texas, and she had zero in terms of her database and grew it to now where she's a very, very, very successful agent. Now, in return, Rebecca, how do we get referrals over to you? We want to be of benefit to you as well. What's the best way we get referrals over to Rebecca?
Do you want me to like put it in the chat? You
Sure.
can call me directly,
Okay.
817-913-3255.
Okay.
That's my direct cell phone. I'll text it to everybody. Send me referrals. And then I'll send you my email as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's go in a little bit of a different direction. Let's talk about the sourcing of your business a little bit. Let's break that down. I know that Rebecca had mentioned that her business primarily comes from her database. She does do expires, does do FSBOs. There are cancels. What are some other sources of business that maybe I missed out or forgot?
I don't pay for any leads,
Okay.
like unless there's just icing on cake and the company sends a lead. I am working on with my coach adding probate.
Okay.
We get into our like just habits.
Mhm.
And I've gotten really good at calling my database, calling my vendors, calling my leads, calling expireds and canceled,
Mhm.
and then I'm usually out of time. But
Yeah.
I have success when I do just listed, just sold. I just don't call them enough.
Mhm.
I like the low hanging, very motivated people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my expireds and canceled. But yeah, I mean really that's my heaviest ones.
Okay. Okay. Well, what's a source that you're working on separate from
Probate.
probates? Because I know that you just mentioned you introduced probate, but what's separate from probate? We'll get to probate in a second. That you're working on to grow.
Probate. I mean probate, honestly, okay, so farming like near me.
Mhm.
Okay, so in my area, there's just thousands of homes being built. There's healthy price ranges, and it's just so much more efficient and easier to go to a listing appointment that's 5, 10 minutes from your house. So
Sure.
I am working on nurturing that area.
Okay.
How am I doing it? I'm going to the gym nearby. I'm going to the restaurants nearby. I'm using the vet nearby, right? Like I'm sending out just solds in that area. I'm calling around my neighborhood, and I'm definitely like super aggressively attacking expireds, canceled, FSBOs in that area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, good. So just so the audience hears it a little bit louder and clearer, this is something that we've talked about every single month, Rebekah, just kind of feel, we basically focus on a source and we'll break down the script. We'll go after, all of the script, the objections and so on and so forth. The one thing that I do like about for sale by owners is that 100% of them have raised their hand, have identified that they actually want to sell. But we have to be honest, it requires some version of skill. Not always, but the majority of the time it's going to require some version of skill. Why do you think agents don't like to go after for sale by owners?
why do I like? Are you talking to me,
No, 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 no.
Robert?
No, why do you
I'm
think?
sarcastically saying that because I
Okay.
shy away from FSBOs too.
Yeah.
I have, when I call them consistently, I take FSBO listings.
Yeah.
It's a mindset thing. It's a
Okay.
mindset thing. They don't see the value in our eyes, right? They want to pay less commission. They don't see why like they should hire us. So in our heads, it's like, why do I want to deal with this chump?
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
I can go call an expired and canceled, figure out why their house didn't sell,
Right.
typically calm them down because they're pissed. But once you calm them down, you can create raving fans
Mhm.
and you just get comfortable with the source. So to me, it's because of that. It's like you put all these objections in your head.
Yeah. The big hairy
And
monster.
and it's more follow-up in my opinion. It's expires and cancels. If they're ready, they'll sign with you right away.
Mhm.
It's like catch them first, boom, you're in. FSBOs, follow up, like this week, that week, and then they're tired of agents after a couple weeks or whatever it is, and then they're like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll hire an agent.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. As I can see the expression on some of the agents that are as they're hearing you, because that's all we talked about. But just to further, just a smidge on that, what would you say the average? And again, I want to make sure the audience understands. I didn't feed Rebekah any of these questions. This is all organic stuff. What's the average time for a for sale by owner before they're ripe, ready to sign a contract, would you say?
Sometimes you call them and they're ready right then. Sometimes, like I've had FSBOs where they're just like, honestly, like we just didn't really know where to start. Like, but yeah, we'll meet with you. Perfect.
Yeah.
Once in a while.
Yeah.
Most of the time, 4 to 6 weeks.
Cool. Okay. That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. A lot of the people that I role played with, I ask them the same question. I'm glad you're saying 4 to 6 weeks. Most of the people that I'm getting are saying right in that 6 to 8 week. So that 6 week window. And again, I'm glad you said the way that you said it, because a lot of times people will mistake with what I'm saying and they'll go in the direction of well, Robert said it takes about 6 to 8 weeks. So let me just follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. No, you got to close. You got to close every single last week
Hmm.
in hopes of getting that listing. So thank you for sharing that with me. What's another tip that I can actually, because we just came out fresh off of FSBOs last week. So what's another tip you can probably provide capturing more FSBOs?
I mean, okay, so Jeff Leslie, because he's always like, dude, take FSBOs. Like, why aren't you calling FSBOs?
Uh,
He will even go out and like preview the houses, you
yeah.
know, to where he'll go preview it And he's just one of those where it's like, I'm going to get this listing. It's just a matter of when.
Mhm.
And that's what it's all about, right? It's right here.
Yeah.
So if we can just get in our heads that, and that's how I am with expires and cancels, right? Like I'm going to get this listing. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, for sure.
So A, mindset. B, consider if
Mhm.
you're not just taking listings like, you got 3 appointments this week, maybe you don't have any,
Mhm.
consider going to preview a property and asking some of those FSBO questions in person. Get in front of them. Don't tell them you have a buyer. Don't lead them in the wrong direction and lie, essentially, fib,
Yeah.
right? Just say, I'm an agent that works a lot in the area. I'd love an opportunity to come see your house. No, you're not ready to list at this point,
Mhm.
but love to get in front of you and get in front of them and then close while you're there. If you still don't get it, keep
Yeah.
following up and closing each call.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple quick things. For those of you that we're going to open it up to the audience here in about 5 minutes. So if you can get your questions at the ready, we'll go ahead and address some of the audience's questions here in a little bit, Rebekah, so that we can get some of that going as well. I promise you all that Rebekah has none of the notes or anything that we covered last week. And I'm sharing that because, again, these questions are very, very organic. And as Rebekah's answering them, you guys are basically hearing a lot of the, same thing we've talked about. And it isn't about putting me on any sort of a pedestal. That's not what I'm getting at. It goes back to I'm a copy and paste. The things that I learned are things that, Rebekah's learned. Jeff Leslie is another really good friend of mine, friend of ours. And same thing. I played with Jeff for probably about a good 4 or 5 years, and we talked about, FSBOs and things like that. We'll get Jeff on this platform as well. But I want the audience to understand that there's a lot of things that we like to keep simple. We want to make sure that you also understand that there's no, you can't reinvent the wheel. Okay, the wheel's already round. I mean, maybe you can kind of polish it up and make it shinier and prettier, but it's already round. So stop trying to mess around with that wheel and try to perfect things. Um, let's move in a different direction. Let's talk a little bit about mindset, okay? Because it seems
Okay.
to be a challenge for a lot of the agents of recent. How do you fight complacency?
Good question. Well, speaking of mindset is I always have big goals in front of me, you know? So you got to have big goals in front of you because let's be honest, there's days where you're just like, I mean, you're beating your head against the wall, right? Like sometimes it's like, man, everything's working out and I'm taking listings and right. And then there's sometimes you're like, my gosh, if I have to prospect for 1 more hour, right? And you're just getting rejected. And so you've got to have like big goals pulling you somewhere.
Mhm.
I mean, we went to Switzerland for 3 weeks at Christmas. We went to 8 different cities, 2 different countries. We went to France, went to a bunch of holiday markets. You can't do that if you don't have a great income.
Yeah.
So with that, I have Switzerland. I have Santa going across the zip line on Montreux. I imagine like my family sipping hot chocolate, like looking out at the Swiss Alps.
Mhm.
That helps me tremendously on
Yeah.
the days when you just don't feel like it.
Mhm.
You know, my
Yeah.
daughter, I look at her and I'm like, I want a different life for you than what I grew up with.
Mhm.
I want to not just give you the world because I am a big believer in working for things is it creates grit and it creates, you got to build it for yourself.
Mhm.
But I want to take her places. I want her to see the world. I want, to have a nice home that she can be proud to live in and to be able to do the sports and not worry like I did growing up. Like, how am I going to join? I got to go like sell ice cream to like get into cheerleading this year, or who am I going to mooch a ride from because mom's van's broken down? Like, you know, I want big things for her. I love my husband and I to go to really nice places. I bought a watch in Switzerland. I'm not a big material, but I gotta be honest. I bought this watch and I'm like, maybe I do love some nice expensive things because I wear it all the time and I'm like, I'm proud of this thing.
Yeah, you should
But
be.
but keep it in front of you. Like I've got my vision board, I've got my goals here, right? And it's not even just about the goals. It's like, who am I becoming?
Mm.
By doing the things that like I told myself I was gonna do.
Good or bad?
I told myself I was gonna get up at a certain time. I told myself I was going to, prospect. I told myself I was going to do lead follow up.
Yeah.
Like keep your promises to yourself because that's what really creates you into a great person
Yeah.
and just somebody that you can be proud of.
Yeah. I love you going so much in depth, and I like the fact that you just have so much conviction with what you're talking about, because it only proves every single last one of these interviews that I do. Again, success has commonalities. What is one of the versions of success that I'm referring to? Well, the success of commonalities in this particular case, Rebekah's highlighting, is of the agents that I know of that are doing large scales of business, agents that are very, very successful, they're very clear on their goals. Agents that are on the opposite side of that spectrum, they have no clue. They're more worried about, paying the bills. And I'm not trying to make light of you if you're in this situation. I just want you to understand the importance of having goals. Their focus is more about paying the bills. I got to pay my rent. I got to, my car payment, the electricity, the we're behind.
Hello?
And the
Mhm.
focus is more on that than it is about, anything else. So you have to have goals. You've got to be in a position where this is something that is of absolute importance. What puts you decide besides the goals and complacency, continuing to think big? What do you
Well,
do?
and I'm gonna I'm gonna go back on that because talking to Jeff Leslie, he's such a great friend in a way that we just talk smack to each other, you know?
Yeah.
And I went through a really tough time. 2022 was a very tough year. My husband got sick. Thank God, like he's on the other side of it. We're not totally out of it yet, but it was tough. I
Yeah.
mean, and so talk about mindset. There was many days. I mean, and I'm a believer, so I find my joy not in my circumstances, but and so through that, that kept me going. But
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm a warrior for my family. Like my husband's counting on me.
Mhm.
Like, and I'm sure you all have families and different people who count on you and look up to you. Like even in my office, I love training people. I mean, not to say just put on a fake facade that I'm just this perfect positive, right? But like I'm a warrior
Yeah.
and I said I was going to do something and I'm going to do it, So mindset, talking about mindset, like just do what you say you're going to do for the
Mhm.
people that are counting on you.
Yeah. Do you guys see how there's just so much radiance in regards to keeping positive, goal setting, being determined, being focused exactly with what it is that we want, this conviction. And then some of you are sitting here in this constant doubt, am I worthy of so on and so forth. You just have to put your mindset to it. And I know it's easier said than done, but it's almost always going to be led with, what you're willing to sacrifice, what you're willing to do, what's of importance to you, what are your goals, what is it that makes you you. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
and one thing I was going to say about the Jeff Leslie, sorry, I knew there was somewhere I was going with that, is I was talking to him, and this was like right in the midst of like the tough year, and medical bills are stacking up and just all the things. And he goes, "It sounds like a lot of your goals are like running from pain, And you're motivated differently when you're running from pain. Pain meaning like I got to pay bills, I got to get out of debt, I've got to, right? Like that motivation is so much different than I want to spend $30,000 and go to Switzerland,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
I want to take my whole family like on a trip, like those what is it? It's like the abundance type goals that you're shooting towards versus like the pain goals.
right.
And I shifted after that call and I was like, you're so right. Like I'm totally just running away from pain. And then I've had my best couple months, in the last like 4 months, it completely shifted.
Yeah, pain versus pleasure.
That's
So
what it is. Sorry,
yeah.
couldn't think of it.
No, you're good. I'm not trying to correct you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so let's get some of the questions that you guys have. Let's go ahead and get them typed into the chat. I'll go ahead and go through. I'm going to go one at a time, and subject to however many questions you have, we'll determine how much we go over. And then just so that Rebekah, we're on the same page, we'll probably just go over about another 15 minutes so that we can, of course, be respectful of your time. Let's see, Lizette Sabrina, Central Valley. Basically, he's asking, what does a typical work day? Let's start with that look like for you.
I think your workday starts with your morning routine.
Mm,
I get up very early, and I do that because if I don't, I get zero time for me.
mm,
So I get up at 4 a.m.
okay.
4 times a week. I might sleep till 5. Like today, I slept till 5. I was exhausted. Um, but I get up at 4 And then I go to this place, Hot Works. I go sit in the sauna and I look like a really funny person because I have like my devotional in there. I do like my meditation. I have a abundance meditation that I do, but essentially like that time for yourself. Gratitude. I've got a gratitude group. I'll send a just quick gratitude text to. But quiet time, visualizing, prayer, devotion, whatever that looks at, but you got to have a little bit of quiet time.
Hmm.
Then I work out.
Mhm.
And then I come home. I might have a little admin that I need to do. And then my daughter gets up, my husband, I hang out with them for about an hour, spend some time with them. And then, it used to be, and this was hard for me when I became a mom. I mean, I was role playing. I'd be to the office at 6:45. I'd role play at 7:15. I'm on the phones by 7:45. Doesn't look like that anymore. I
Mhm.
mean, what's more important to me is my morning with Sophia and my family.
Mhm.
And so I don't get on the phones typically until about 8:30 now.
Okay. Yeah, like
Yeah.
really late 8:30.
Yeah. But I mean, it's
Yeah.
different though, because if you hit expireds and cancels at 8:30 versus 7:45, that's a completely different call if they even pick up.
Yeah. I
But yeah,
I chuckle because I know that some agents struggle at strolling into the office at 9:45, 10 o'clock. So, and you're talking about sleeping in until 5 o'clock, where some of these not of course the agents here. I'm speaking in general, where agents will like stroll out of bed at 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30, and getting their day started at that time. So I'm glad you actually
it wasn't always like that, by the way. It wasn't always
yeah,
like that.
yep.
It's, you just get better and better over time.
Yeah.
You don't have to, if I get up at 7 o'clock right now, don't try to get up at 4 o'clock. Like you're going to actually hurt your body probably.
Hmm.
But get up at 6
Hmm.
for a month and then 5 or whatever. Or maybe you don't have to get up that early. Like not everybody's, you can't compare yourself to other people. I just was looking at my personal best. I think that's so awesome. Mike talked about that one year where he said, what's your personal best? What's the best listing month, pendings, kind of go through it all. That's who you're competing against.
Yeah.
But
What
when you're working at your best or if you need to start, if you need to make some changes.
Yeah. And I don't want you to dumb it down because you've done a tremendous job. You worked your ass off to get where you're at. It's easy to focus on the highlights. It's easy to focus on the after part, because a lot of times what people end up hearing is like if I ask you how many contacts you're making, agents, by this stage, you're making 20, 25 contacts, like, oh, okay, well, if I only make 20 contacts, no, but you don't understand that these agents went through years after years after years of making 40, 50, 60 contacts, prospecting for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. This is the beauty of Rebekah's in a position now in her life, that she can build this life,
Well,
and
and that was a big thing when I coached with Tony back in 2020
uh,
is and he knew I was at a place where it was time,
yeah,
right? Like if Tony was coaching me a few years prior and I just moved to Texas or if I was just starting out, the call would be different.
yeah,
But at that time, he was coaching me and saying, I want you to do more business in less time.
yeah,
Because before that, I was prospecting 40 contacts a day, 4 or 5 hours a day. And when I got with Tony, I went from 40 contacts a day to 20,
mhm,
but I doubled my business.
yeah,
Well, how do you do that? I mean, just skills, effort, right? There's different ways, but you really do have to start with making the contacts to create the habit, to work the muscle, to get the objections, to be able to practice. And
yeah,
then
mhm,
later, when you've earned the right, then you can start to do more business in less time.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Any other questions? Looks like we're a little bit shallow on questions today. You guys got it all figured out. Rebekah did an amazing job.
So she says call her database besides forwarding. What's forwarding? Is
I
Mark.
yeah. So Jess, I think that was supposed to be a private message. So we have
Oh,
a separate call. She wanted to talk a little bit about database, but Jess, I don't know if you're here. If you want to actually maybe chime in, if that was directed to Rebekah.
Yeah, that was directed towards her. She had
Okay.
mentioned that she calls her database. Actually, as we were just talking, I printed out my entire database. But I know that like the most common things are probably forwarding, which is the family, occupation, recreational, and dreams. Like that's a way to check in, and then also market updates. But I am curious to see what other things you're calling about quarterly.
yeah, that's such a good question. I'm gonna go back to Tony. Tony had me do an exercise where I wrote scripts out for all different calls. So it could be a market update, right? Everybody does a market update, but it could be, I'm not sure that I ever shared with you. Did you know that I have a referral network where I have agents that I've partnered with across the entire nation? To where if you've got a family, let's say in California, member that needs some real estate help, did you know that I could refer them to a really strong agent? Gosh, forgive me for never sharing that with you. Is there anybody that you can think of, whether that's here in Texas or anywhere across the nation, that may need some real estate help with that I could connect them with an agent, right? So talking about your referral network, you could talk about, gosh, have I ever told you that I have an entire database of trusted vendors that work here in the area? Have I shared that with you? So you do your normal like database and then you just say, I mean, obviously all things real estate. I love that you call me, but I want you to know that you could call me if you ever need a handyman, plumber, electrician. Is there anything that I can help you with right now? Any projects at your house that I could be a resource for? But go
Sorry,
through and just think about,
question.
go ahead.
So it's all business. It doesn't sound like it's personal.
I mean, I make it personal at the end. So the way that, I've always been taught is you call, right? Hey, it's Rebekah. I've got some great news to share. And you share whatever it is you're sharing, market update, vendor, referral network, blah, blah, blah. Could be interest rates, could be a refinance program, could be just anything of value for them. Maybe in their area, there's a festival coming up, right? That people love going, whatever. And then, so how's Jerry doing? And I know you guys had a baby a couple months ago. That's so exciting, right? Did you get I'll send cards and stuff for different like things if they tell me they're getting engaged, getting married, right? They have a baby. But yeah, then I make it personal at the end. I don't do personal at the beginning. I've always just been taught it's like, make it warm and fuzzy at the end, but don't like steer them in the wrong direction. Hey, this is a personal call. And then at the end, you're like, by the way, do you know anybody that wants to buy or sell a house? And they're like, what were they really calling about? To check in on, my family. So yeah, I make it personal at the end.
Yeah, and that's what we're focusing on the entire month. And that's basically what everybody's homework was from the, our morning meetings at 7:30 is creating a menu of topics. So let me enhance a little bit based on with what we're talking about. In the menu of topics, what I have all of my coaching clients do is identify some of these things that Jess is talking about. So you can do things like quarterly updates. You could do a yearly update. What does that look like? If I'm calling Rebekah, hey, it's Robert, your realtor, just giving a quick little update what's going on with the real estate market. As you know, or may not know, from January 1st through March 30th, we did have a 3% increase. As an example, a property in your neighborhood going for about $600,000, that's about an $18,000 to $20,000 increase. Rebekah, my question to you is, who do you know that wants to take advantage of this information, looking to buy, sell, or invest right now? Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
So quarterly updates, yearly updates. You could talk about interest rates. You could talk about loan programs. You could talk about law changes, benefits of a trust. You could talk about creating a vendor list, reaching out to people. Hey, Rebekah, I know that you have that cookie business. I'd love the opportunity to add you and your bakery to my list. Is it okay if I add you? Hey, by the way, I also have other VIP people on the list in case you need somebody, which is what Rebekah just talked about. I want you all to create that menu of topic. By the time it's all said and done, all of my coaching clients have 12 to 15 topics. The cool thing about it is you grab one, you call all of them over the course of a quarter. Well, guess what? Because you have 12 or 15, I'm equipping you with 5 years worth of calling your database. I think that's pretty cool.
And you just keep it in a Dropbox. Hey, and Tony would always say, like, what's my approach this quarter with my database?
Yeah.
And you bring the value, whatever that menu choice is, and then you ask for referrals, and then you make it personal.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing too, to add, me personally, with what I did, I know the question is geared towards Rebekah, but just to kind of add a little bit, I would always do 4 business calls. 4 business calls a year, which is with what we're supposed to do. I would do more. I don't want to get too much on the mastery side of this, but just 4 calls. But I'd also do 2 personal calls. And the 2 personal calls, everybody has one of these. I'd call them for their birthday. Okay. And it'd just be a quick little 90-second call. Rebekah, hey, it's Robert. Just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. Just wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of my life. Hopefully you make it a special one. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. Maybe a 2-3 minutes addition to that. The second one, I have all of my coaching clients. This is one thing that I would do. All of my business calls were done before Thanksgiving. Between the week of Thanksgiving all the way through New Year's, that 6 weeks, it would be personal. What does that look like depending on where we're at in that time of the year? Rebekah, hey, it's Robert, your realtor, just reaching out to you. I just wanted to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of my life. I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving, a happy New Year, happy Christmas.
Love that.
Yeah. So
I
I take
love that.
6 weeks and focused on specifically about personal,
That's
give them
so
a call
good.
about their birthday, and then you do your 4 business calls, and bam, there you go. You are
And
in.
I love that November and December. I don't know that I've ever heard of that. That's so good. Because then it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, I mean, you're just calling to check in, Merry Christmas, whatever, happy holiday. That's awesome.
no
I'm gonna do
business.
that.
Yeah, no business, just personal. That's kind of
Love
a
that.
Robertism. So you guys can send me a referral when it's all said and
Yeah.
done. All right, we're at time. I want to go ahead and give at least one or two more people the opportunity to ask a question. If not, we're going to go ahead and let Rebekah go. Anybody have a question? Ooh, look
I
at that.
just asked.
Go for it.
So you mentioned that obviously your schedule's changed with your daughter and you're getting started later than most folks who are calling, let's say, expired, right?
Mhm.
So what do you do since you're calling later? They've already been bombarded, right? To kind of connect with them. What's your strategy there? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I will say this, I mean, and this isn't the best way to prospect, but like this morning when I had to go into the office and I'm sitting in traffic, I actually printed them off and I called them on my Bluetooth and I set a listing appointment. Not the best way, but listen, I'm all about like you got to do what you got to do. So if I like, and I was able to call them at 7:45, you just have so much more like you have a lot more luck at that time, right? Because you're the first, second, third person. But if I'm not, I'll double dial them, right? I'll
Gotcha.
text them. Hey, it's Rebekah. I've got a quick question. When's a better time that we can talk? And then I'll call them at lunch, right? So I just hit them a few more times to try to get in touch with them. And a lot of times I do. Sometimes I don't.
Right.
So essentially just calling them more. But if they're like, oh my gosh, like they're like the 100th person that's called me, gosh, forgive me. I'm sure you've been getting bombarded with calls. I tell you what, I'll be quick. I just was curious to see when did you plan on interviewing the right agent? You just move, you acknowledge, you repeat, you approve, I'm with you. They feel that you're genuine. You move on to the next question. They forget that they're pissed off most of the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to add a little bit from that with what Rebekah's talking about is empathy is huge.
Oh,
It is like
everything.
it's like, yeah, exactly. It's pretty much everything when it comes time to expireds. Because if you're trying to shove it down their throat, it's not gonna work. Okay. And that basically Rebekah nailed it. You just got to be in a position where you're just kind of with them. You're talking with them, not at them. And just being in that position, Rebekah, I'm so sorry. I know you've got quite a few calls already by now. And just a simple question. Hey, before I let you go, when are you guys looking at interviewing the right agent for the job to sell your home? Oh, you're not. That's unfortunate. You had a plan to go somewhere. Where were you guys planning on moving to? You have to have the empathy to show up, especially for the expired people.
I'm in Texas, so the gosh, forgive me, right? Like just the
Mhm.
gosh, forgive me. I'm sure you've been bombarded with phone calls, just kind of like lower voice, right? Just that
Right.
I'd be just as frustrated as you are. I'll be quick question, right? And you just move into the next question. But just truly like there with them and your voice, like genuine and really be there. Like honestly, if you're just like a good person, these people have been bombarded. Like if you think about if you were on that side of things, how bad do we get? Like I'm a prospector and I'm terrible. I hang up on prospectors all the time and I'm like, that's such bad karma. But right? Like
Yeah.
it's annoying. So read like I'm with you.
Uh-huh.
I'm not like every other agent. If you just give me 1 minute, I had one question for you. I live in the neighborhood or I help a lot of folks where they've expired or canceled off the market.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Good
Very
stuff.
cool.
All right, one more question. Who else? Okay, so I guess finish the rest of the schedule. We did. We
Yeah,
got
so rest of the schedule. So prospect, lead follow-up, admin, lunch. I may do some mindset breaks. Sometimes I work from home, like I said, so I might take my dog for a walk or listen to a Mike Ferry video, and then appointments. And I'm honestly most days done by 4 p.m. I go pick up my daughter. I don't work weekends much at all. This will be the first Saturday that I have a listing appointment in a long time. I never work Sundays. Knock on wood, thank God.
Oh,
I made a decision a long time ago. And that's all that it is you just got to make decisions. But in the beginning of my business, I was doing weekends. I mean, I didn't have a family, but now that I have a family, I mean, I've worked it to where I don't work a lot of weekends.
yeah.
And mostly never any evenings. Once in a while, I'll do like an evening appointment, but for the most part, no.
Yeah, good job. Good job. Awesome. I think if anything also is setting that expectation with clients is being in a position where you just let them know, yeah, I just don't work on Sundays. Sundays is reserved for my God, and I'm hoping that, that's okay with you. And if they're not okay with it, well, you're gonna have to make a decision if that's gonna be
They always are okay with it.
Yep.
Right. And you just, I can't meet Sunday. What about Monday? Oh, Mondays don't work. What about, I could squeeze in a Saturday morning. Would that work for you? You
Mhm.
can find another time that works.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. So I just want to, of course, I am beyond grateful to have you in my circle, my friends. You got to include me in that gratitude group. I got to be a part of that group. So
Yeah. All right. We'll
yeah,
let you in. You got
yeah.
to
Okay.
pass the interview process. No, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
goodness. Well, I'm grateful for even the interview process. So hopefully
I
that
know.
helps.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'll talk to the crew. We'll see if you get accepted.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah, so I appreciate you being in my circle, being here with all of us and sharing all the things that makes you amazing. So thank you everybody
Thank
for
you.
being on time, and let's get some referrals over to Rebekah. So thank you so
That'd
much,
be
Rebekah.
great. Love to help them.
All righty. See you guys.
Thank
Bye.
you. Take care.
Hi everyone, Robert Villanueva here.
You can tear me down.
And of course, as always, I'll see you at the top.